It is exactly 30 days to the Anambra governorship election, counting from today. But concerns over safety has continued to mount. On May 24, 2021, gunmen burnt down the state headquarters of the Independent National Electoral Commission amidst a rise in attacks on INEC offices nationwide. In August 2021, INEC chairman and national commissioner in charge of publicity and voter education, Festus Okoye, revealed that half of the non-sensitive materials pre-delivered for the administrative task of the election were destroyed in the May attack. INEC in September revealed plans to deploy at least 25,000 INEC officials on election day. However, the planned storage of non-sensitive materials in the INEC zonal office in Owerri, Imo State caused controversy. The PDP, YPP and ABGA questioned the decision to store materials in a state with an APC governor, but INEC stated that the materials could not be stored in Anambra due to the May attack on INEC state headquarters. Other INEC plans were less controversial, such as the planned use of the new bimodal voter accreditation system device after it was successfully tested during the Isoko South Delta State constituency by-election 2 months before Anambra election day. INEC will today present voters' register and publish final list of candidates for the election. We have in the studio the National Commissioner, Voter Education and Information, Festus Okoye, to wrap our heads around the preparations ahead of the election. Good morning, and it's good to have you join us.
Yeah, good morning.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Now, we are, I would say, sort of confronted with a very unique challenge in this case. We have INEC planning for an election, and also there are concerns about safety of both materials and officials in the election. How prepared is INEC for this election?
Well, you know that constitutionally and legally, the remit of the Independent National Electoral Commission is to organize, undertake, and supervise elections. And that's what we know how to do. And based on that, and also based on the fact that under Section 178, subsection 2 of the Constitution, the period for the conduct of the Anambra governorship election, and indeed all governorship elections, has been constitutionally circumscribed. So based on that, we've been working assiduously to make sure that we deliver a very good election in Anambra State. And as you pointed out in your promo, that was why we delivered over 50% of the non-sensitive materials required for the conduct of the election way before this period. But unfortunately, those materials went up in flames. So at the level of the Independent National Electoral Commission, we are preparing. And as the chairman revealed a few days ago, we lost 6 utility vehicles during the attack on the 24th day of May 2021. We lost our collation center or pavilion. We lost over 326 generating stations that were mopped up from the local, the 21 local government areas and the 326 wards in Anambra State. Part of the main building was also burnt and vandalized. But what we have done is to restore some of these facilities. We fully restored the stores that were burnt, and the stores will be ready to receive materials any moment from now. We've restored the collation center and pavilion. We've also restored the main headquarters of the commission. So on the part of the commission, we are moving ahead with preparations for the election.
Okay, now in terms of safety for materials and officials, what have you put in place so far?
Well, as I pointed out, our task is to organize, undertake, and supervise elections. Now, for the Anambra governorship election, we are going to deploy at least 25,009 ad hoc staff. And this excludes collation officers. This excludes our permanent staff that will also perform one duty or the other in Anambra. But totally, we project that we may deploy over 26,000 staff for the Anambra governorship election. Now, what we normally do is that for the 5,720 polling units in Anambra State, we are going to post youth corps members as presiding officers. And then for assistant presiding officers 1, 2, and 3, we are going to have students of federal tertiary institutions to complement the UCOR members. And these are sons and daughters of people who are at the prime of their lives. So we have a responsibility, we have a duty to make sure that no harm befalls them. And based on the threat level in Anambra State, we convened an emergency meeting of the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security, and we've deliberated with the security agencies both at the national level and at the state level, and also at the local government level. And measures are being put in place to make sure that the safety of the core members is paramount. So we've emphasized greater synergy between the security agencies in terms of sharing information and also in terms of sharing intelligence. Yeah. And they have assured us that they have the situation under control.
Okay, now this morning we're seeing on the papers, virtually all the papers, leading with the story about, a state of emergency possibly to be declared in Anambra State, and is already generating some, controversy about maybe over-militarization of the process, the opposition party, raising some suspicion there and on all of that. Now, how do we guarantee confidence, in this process?
Well, let me put it this way. Now, I've made it very clear, and the chairman has also made it very clear, that if you look at the provisions of Section 178, subsection 2 of the Constitution, that particular section is problematic. It's problematic in the sense that the Constitution obligates the Commission to conduct governorship election within a certain period. It says you cannot conduct a governorship election 150 days before the terminal date of the incumbent, and not later than 30 days before the terminal date of the incumbent. Now, the implication is that we must conduct the election within this specified period. And the Supreme Court has said repeatedly that that particular provision is cast in stone, is immovable, and that if you are unable to conduct the election within that constitutionally circumscribed period, you cannot conduct the election anymore, and whatever you do becomes null and void. So from our own point of view, there are only four options available to the country. The first option is to proceed and conduct the governorship election within the constitutional framework, and that's exactly what the Commission is pushing. The second option, which for me may not really be available in this circumstance, is the option provided in Section 180, subsection 3 of the Constitution, which says that if the Federation is at war, in which the territory of Nigeria is physically attacked, that the President can, in conjunction with the National Assembly, extend the tenure of the incumbent governor by an initial period of 6 months, pending the time that a situation is obviated. I believe that this is not available to us because I'm not too sure that the Federation is at war and no territory of Nigeria has been physically attacked in the true sense of the word. The second option that is available is the option under Section 191, subsection 2 of the Constitution, which says that if the governor and the deputy governor, for instance, have been impeached, or if one dies and the office of the governor and deputy governor becomes vacant, that the Speaker of the State Assembly can take over and complete the unexpired term of office of the incumbent. In other words, he can only operate within the confines of that 4-year period and no more. So if there's still gap, like 6 months, he has to conduct the election within 3 months, but it must fall within that 4-year period. And this one is not available. So the only option available, if we are unable to conduct the election, is the option under Section 305 of the Constitution, which says that if there is breakdown of law and order, or even threat of breakdown of law and order in the Federation or any part of it, and requiring extraordinary measures to restore order, that one, the President can impose a state of emergency through a proclamation. And under subsection 4 of 305, the governor, with the concurrence of 2/3 majority of the House of Assembly, can also request the President to impose a state of emergency if there's threat of breakdown of law and order or actual breakdown of law and order. But the President can also bypass the governor if within a reasonable time, the governor does not make that particular request, the president can move ahead and impose a state of emergency. So the point I'm trying to make is that these ones has nothing to do with the Independent National Electoral Commission. These are powers that are reserved for the president, for the National Assembly, for the governor and the State Assembly.
Okay. So, but based on the reports that you've been getting, will it be necessary to declare a state of emergency with what we know so far?
Well, the business of the commission is to organize, undertake, and supervise elections. It is the responsibility of the Nigerian police force to provide election security, because the police is the lead agency in terms of election security. The intelligence available to the commission is not the intelligence available to the president. The level of intelligence and the level of security report available to the president is completely different from what is available to us. Our business is to insist that the voters must be adequately protected, that the election staff must be adequately protected, and that we should have a conducive environment for us to organize, undertake, and supervise elections.
Okay. Now, do we hope to see, the deployment of technology in the conduct of this election?
Definitely. This particular commission wants to deepen democracy through the use of technology. And based on that, we've been working very, very hard to make sure that we conduct a very good election. So one of the things we have done, as you are aware, is that we did a continuous voters registration exercise throughout the federation. But for Anambra, based on the fact that it has a governorship election, we not only conducted the exercise in our state office, we also conducted the exercise in all the 21 local government areas. And we also deployed the exercise to the 326 registration areas or wards in Anambra State. So based on that, the figure for Anambra is high. So what we have done is to integrate this supplementary register that we have compiled with the main voters register, which will be presented to the political parties today in Anambra State. So we use technology for this particular purpose because we created an online portal through which mostly young Nigerians pre-registered before they capture their biometrics at the level of at our state offices, local government offices, and registration areas. Secondly, as you pointed out, the bimodal system will also be deployed in Anambra State. We tested it during the Isoko State Constituency election, and we believe that it is robust enough, it's ruggedized, and we are going to deploy it for the purposes of voter accreditation in Anambra State. In other words, when you get to the polling unit, first of all, we try to capture your fingerprints. If we are unable to capture your fingerprints, then we capture your facials. If we are unable to capture your facials, three things are possible. One, there's a possibility that the permanent voter's card with you does not belong to you. Secondly, it's possible that you are trying to engage in multiple voting. And three, it's possible that you are engaged in identity theft, in which case we are not going to allow you to vote. So we are going to deploy technology for this election. Now, the bimodal system will also be used to upload polling unit results into our INEC result viewing portal. So these three things are going to come into play during the Anambra governorship election.
All right. Now, another important aspect of this process is the integrity of the process.
Yes.
Given the circumstances, we're already seeing, political parties raising concern about the integrity, especially when you now have to keep certain materials in neighboring states, because of, the situation in Anambra State and all of that. How can you guarantee, to stakeholders in this process that the election is going to be free and fair, and that the integrity of the process is guaranteed?
Let me make this very clear. In all our processes and in all our procedures, we try to carry all the critical stakeholders along. And based on that, tomorrow we are going to have a meeting, an emergency consultative meeting with the leaders of the political parties. But that does not mean that political parties are going to dictate to the commission how to run our processes and our procedures. The Independent National Electoral Commission is the umpire. We are the regulator of political parties. and no political party will be allowed to regulate us. So what we can only do is to consult them in terms of certain things we do, so that all of us will be on the same page. But no political party will regulate the commission. We regulate them, and they cannot dictate to us. Now, on this whole issue about storage of materials, INEC materials and the materials we use and the equipment we use in the conduct of elections are not obtained off the shelf. Some of them takes 6 months to procure. Some of them takes 1 year to procure. Some of them are not even procured within the country. So the implication is that we have to procure some of these materials and some of this equipment and store them preparatory to an election. And some of these by-elections do not give us sufficient time. For instance, if there's a death in relation to a member of the National Assembly, for instance, the moment the speaker declares a vacancy, the commission has 30 days within which to conduct the election. And there is very little you can do within a period of 30 days. So what this commission has done is to establish what we call zonal stores to serve the various zones. We have a zonal store serving the North Central. We have a zonal store serving the Northwest. We have a zonal store serving the Southeast. We have a zonal store serving the South-South, and so on. What is it that we have in these zonal stores? Cubicles, ballot boxes, biro, sellotape, and so on and so forth. Those non-sensitive materials that are required for the conduct of election. So when our office in Anambra State was burnt, we reasoned that it may be better and cheaper for us to just move some of these non-sensitive materials direct to the local governments bordering Anambra. If you know the geography of Imo State and Anambra State, you will find out that from Owerri to Ihiala may take you less than 20 minutes. But from Oka to Ihiala may take you almost 45 minutes. From Owerri to Ekusigo local government will take you maybe 20 to 30 minutes. But it may take you more if you are coming in from Anambra to those places. So we reason that it may be better to just take those materials from our zonal stores and just drop them in those local governments. And then people started raising all sorts of issues, all sorts of concerns that for us does not make meaning. So what we have done is that since we have completed our zonal store, the office in Anambra and the stores that were burnt, we have now moved, and we are going to move the materials both from our headquarters here direct to our office in Anambra, and then move some of the materials direct from our zonal stores in Owerri direct to our office in Oka, and then from there we now deploy to the various local governments since the store is ready. So we really do not have concerns. All those things that are raising are the realm of politics, and it has nothing to do with us. Our business is to conduct free, fair, and transparent election in Anambra State, and our processes and our procedures are very clear and they are very, very transparent. And all the political parties will be involved in the movement of these materials, both from our Oka office to all the local governments. But for sensitive materials, the period for the movement of sensitive materials has not arrived, because the sensitive materials go direct to the central bank. And before we move anything from the central bank, the political parties come for inspection, and then the movement is done with them.
All right.
Yes.
Now, with regards to the deployment of technology in this process,
yes,
another issue that have generated a lot of conversation is the issue of e-transmission of results and all of that. This
yes.
is something that INEC has used, in the past. Are we expecting to see that in this Anambra election, given the circumstance?
Let me put it this way. What we are going to do in Anambra will be to upload from EC8A, which is the polling unit level result, into our INEC result viewing portal, for purposes of transparency or for purposes of building trust. So that if you are internet savvy, if you have internet facilities, you can view these reports as they come in. Now, I think that there's some form of misunderstanding in relation to some of these issues. Under Section 78 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and Section 118 of the Constitution, as well as under item 15 of part 1 of the third schedule to the Constitution, the Independent National Electoral Commission does not share the power of conducting and supervising elections with anybody. We don't share that power. Secondly, under section 160 of the Constitution has given us the power to impose duty and responsibility on any agency or organ of government that we believe has competence and expertise in relation to the work we do. But no such agency has a corresponding right to impose duty on the commission. So, based on that, we believe that the processes and procedures for the conduct of elections, including the transmission of election results, resides with the Independent National Electoral Commission. Now, what we are saying is that it is one thing to transmit the results of election. It is another thing for those results you have transmitted to have constitutional and legal efficacy and potency. Section 63 and Section 65 of the Electoral Act are the operative sections in relation to the collation of results. And Section 63 says that it is the duty of the presiding officer at the polling unit to sort out the votes that have been received by political parties, then count the votes, and then enter those votes in a form designed by the Independent National Electoral Commission, in a form. And then he will sign and stamp the form, and then get the polling agents or agents of political parties to also sign, and thereafter he gives each of them a copy. And then he carries everything together with security agencies, together with the polling agents, to the next level, which is the registration area collation center, where the collation officer will also enter all those figures in a form called from EC8B, and then it goes to next level. What we are saying, asking the National Assembly to do, is to amend the provisions of the Electoral Act relating to collation of results, because those are the forms that are recognized legally in law for the purposes of making a determination of who has won election and who has not won election. So our issue has nothing to do with the issue of whether we have power or right to transmit election results. Do we have power? Yes, we have the power to do that. Can we introduce electronic voting machines in the electoral system? Yes, we can, because Section 52, subsection 2 of the Constitution was amended by the National Assembly of the Electoral Act, of the Section 52 of the Electoral Act has been amended by the National Assembly to give the Commission the power to determine the mode of election. So we have power to do all these things. The only thing we are saying is amend Section 63 and 65 and the other corresponding sections to allow us to also collate results electronically, not to transmit results electronically.
Okay. Now, many will be of the opinion that because of the unrest in Anambra State,
yes,
the elections be postponed. Could there be any form of threat that could force the Commission to postpone the elections?
The Commission can only reschedule within the ambit and confines of Section 178 of the Constitution. And what Section 178, if I may just read directly, what Section 178 of the Constitution says is that it says that if you read from Section 178 subsection 1, it says that an election to the office of a governor of a state shall be held on a date to be appointed by the Independent National Electoral Commission in accordance with the Electoral Act. The subsection 2 of Section 178 says that an election to the office of a state governor shall be held on a date not earlier than 150 days and not later than 30 days before the expiration of the term of office of the last holder of the office. So, under Section 26 of the Electoral Act, we can shift the election by a month or by 2 months. But any election we conduct 29 days to the terminal date of the incumbent, is null and void.
All right, now we also have another issue, with the sit-at-home order in the Southeast and all of that, and also there are concerns about voter apathy, about people feel intimidated not to come out and all of that.
Yes.
How can people be ensured that they will be their safety is guaranteed in this whole process?
Well, the Commission, within its own limited powers in relation to issue of security, is engaged in confidence-building measures. That's why we have consulted with the security agencies. We've received briefings from them. We've received reports from them. We've heard what they intend to do in restoring confidence and public order and public safety in Anambra State. Tomorrow, we are going to meet with the leaders of political parties and also rub minds with them in relation to the maintenance of peace and security in the place. We are also going to consult with traditional rulers. We are going to consult with religious leaders. We are also going to consult with civil society groups and organizations and other critical stakeholders in the state to make sure that we build enough confidence in the people to assure them of their safety and security. But this whole thing goes both ways. If you saturate the state with security, two things are likely going to happen. There's a possibility that the confidence of the people will be restored and they can go out to go and vote during the election in terms of the fact that they will feel there's a sense of security. The flip side of it is that they may also feel intimidated by the saturation of security in the place, and then they decide to keep off from the polling units. And that's why I believe that we must engage in multi-stakeholder action to make sure that we build the confidence of the people on the need and desirability of this particular election, and also on the dangers of going the route of a state of emergency in the place. It is much better for us to have an election that is conducted under a civil atmosphere than for us to have an election conducted under a state of emergency.
So I think there's a question we are supposed to ask right now, which has to do with court orders regarding candidates of political parties. Has INEC gone as far as resolving some of these issues?
Well, you know that under Section 87 of the Electoral Act, the conduct of party primaries is slightly within the exclusive realm of the various political parties. And the Commission has made it very clear that it's not going to micromanage any political party. What the political parties are supposed to do is to conduct clean party primaries that satisfies the legal requirements under Section 87 and Section 285 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now, some of the political parties did not manage their party primaries well. And based on that, we had what we call the multiplicity of actions and multiplicity of court orders, even from courts of coordinate jurisdiction. So that created serious problem and serious tension, especially for the electoral management body, because some of the orders were from courts that did not have substantive and geographical jurisdiction to entertain them. And then the Chief Justice of the Federation was worried, the President of the Court of Appeal was worried, and so they decided to take action. And I'm happy to report that the President of the Court of Appeal decided to set up a special panel to hear appeals from all over the Federation relating to these orders from courts of coordinate jurisdiction. And the Chief Justice of the Federation also invited the Chief Judges of some of the states to explain and rub minds with them on really what happened in relation to those matters. But there has been some level of order now. And that's why today we are going to release the final list of candidates that are going to contest the governorship election. But having said that, let me make it clear that some of the matters have gone to the Supreme Court. And under Section 287 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Independent National Electoral Commission is under a constitutional obligation to give effect to orders and judgments of courts of record. And the Supreme Court is a court of record. In fact, is the final court in the land. Whatever order or whatever judgment the Supreme Court gives, the Independent National Electoral Commission must comply. So if tomorrow, despite the fact that we've published the final list of candidates, the Supreme Court says that the name of the person we publish is not the name of the person that ought to be published, definitely will affect that particular change. But as of today, there has been some level of calm and some level of order and sanity in relation to this multiplicity of court orders.
All right. Now, in terms of regulation of some of these political parties, this question I would say is more like just an addition to all the conversation. Some political parties, the way they field in candidates, sometimes some have raised concern about the kind of scrutiny that goes into deciding who becomes a candidate, representing a particular party. Does INEC has any role, in terms of regulating the credibility of the candidates that eventually emerge?
Well, the role assigned to the Commission by the Constitution and the Electoral Act is very, very minimal. The Constitution and the Electoral Act expects the political parties to do due diligence. In other words, if you look at the law, if a political party feels a candidate that is not qualified, the political party has committed an electoral offense. So, under Section 285 of the Constitution and also under Section 31 of the Constitution of the Electoral Act, the Commission receives the nominated list of candidates and their personal particulars. And within 7 days, we are obligated to publish that in the constituency where the candidate intends to contest election. And it says that any individual who believes that any of the information supplied by the candidate is false can approach a high court, the Federal High Court or the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory. And if the court believes that the candidate has supplied false information, the court will issue an order disqualifying the candidate. So that power is reserved for the political parties and also for individuals in Nigeria to do. Our role is very, very limited in terms of scrutinizing the particulars of candidates, whether those candidates are qualified or whether those candidates are not qualified.
So are there any sanctions for political parties who default in this instance, where they field in candidates that are not qualified for the election?
It's an electoral offense, and the Commission reserves the power to take them to court. And if the court comes to the conclusion that they offended the provisions of the law, the necessary fine will be imposed. But we have made it very clear as an electoral management body that our preference will be a situation where the National Assembly and the Executive will bring into being an Electoral Offences Commission and Tribunal that will be exclusively charged with the responsibility of investigating, arresting and prosecuting electoral offenders. Because the task of conducting registration of voters, registering political parties and monitoring their activities, conducting elections, and also engaging in post-election activities is huge. So we believe that this aspect of the electoral legal framework should be removed from the Commission and given to a separate agency that will run it very professionally and will also run it very competently, because as at now, it's just as far as the Commission is concerned, it's a surplusage, and we don't have a power to do, we don't have the power to arrest, we don't have the power to investigate, we can only prosecute. And sometimes, by the time the police carries out arrest, finishes investigation and transfers to the Commission, the case file has gone cold.
All right then. Well, at this point, we want to end this discussion. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We hope to have you another time.
Thank you so much for coming.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
We've been speaking with the National Commissioner, Voter Education and Information, Independent National Electoral Commission, Festus Okoye, and he's been very, very instrumental to this discussion. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
All right.